All right, guys, thank you so much for joining me. Today's video is Kasane Teto, Vocaloid as the Slit Mouthed Woman, one of my favorite lores in Japanese culture and Japanese horror, or J-horror. Um, this was a fun one. My buddy Richard, whose YouTube channel I will put in the description, along with a link for the history of the lore of the Slit Mouthed Woman, into this was a commission for Richard. He is a fan of like J-pop and Vocaloid characters, and I was running, or still am, by the time this video comes out, a not a special or a deal, but just something to help raise funds for your local community food banks. And what I decided to do was, if you sent me a screenshot receipt for a donation to your local food bank, Richard's here in town, so he did a donation to the Community Food Bank of Southern Arizona, I would produce a sketch card of a character of your choice and then get it shipped out to you, or drop it off if you were here local. I mailed this out to Richard just for like ease. Plus, it was kind of fun to have him do his own video where he did like a mail call with the card and showed it off and linked over to my profile. So now that he's done that, I can safely put the video up and show it off to all you guys out here. It's a longer time lapse. This took me a little bit longer to do. So the time lapse is about 9 minutes long, but I've been recording at at 5 times speed for the time lapses, so they tend to be a teeny bit longer. Richard said this is like a piece or a character he wouldn't have normally commissioned, but because there was, the special incentive of doing a donation to the food bank, he was just like, yeah, this is a great choice. So he's a fan of the Vocaloid, Kasane Teto, and he found a video where somebody did some like metallization version of a song, and then added some artwork of her just staring, kind of like this image of her just staring kind of like viciously into the camera. And she was all done up to look like Slit Mouthed Woman. And he sent the video to me, and he goes, this is kind of what I want. You can do like Kasane as herself, or if you want to do her as a Slit Mouthed Woman, like free reign for you. And I was just like, okay, let me look at this. And I saw it, and then I looked at her as a regular character and decided to combine the two even more so than in the video, because as a Vocaloid, she's very like colorful. She's very poppy. She has kind of like a blue and pink motif. And so I did that a little watered down once I get to the coloring, but I wanted to keep that like dark edge associated with this, because she is in fact representing Slit Mouthed Woman, and so it didn't make sense to have her just be super cute with a vicious smile. So you're going to get some kind of muted colors when it comes to her color scheme, but also getting some of that darker, harder edge look to her. And you're going to see me do a little bit of cleanup and then start with the colors. And I've been using the watercolor reservoir pens, and I think they speak for themselves for me with respect to control and being able to deliver a decent amount of color and a decent amount of color blending, which is always super important. I have a heavier hand, so using the brush pens and the reservoir paintbrushes really helps me out to be a little bit lighter, and also using a very, very limited color palette. I know I mentioned this during the Nun time lapse in that my Prang watercolor set is like 16 colors, I think. So I have to be, I don't think I have to be careful, but I have to be a little mindful with respect to the colors that I choose, how I use them, how I blend them, those types of things. And what I did here is I missed the fact that she has um, these little like half sleeves that like start right at the biceps area, right underneath the shoulder, and they go down to the wrist. So they cut off at the shoulders themselves. So I decided to add those in. And if you look up the character Kasane Teto, you're gonna see like her colors are very, very bright, very vibrant. But if you're going horror, in my estimation, unless you're doing or trying to do a really specific look, which might have worked with this, muted colors or subdued colors or less saturated colors are the way to go to give that impression. Now, one of the main things about the Slit Mouthed Woman, if you watch the movie Carved, phenomenal movie. Like I love the lore, I love the character development of J horror and Asian horror in general. Don't get me wrong. I love horror as a genre, but American horror tends to rely solely on the jump scares, and it tends to rely solely on um, just like gore as an aspect and a selling point and being super violent. You know, take Terrifier for instance. When you have characters that are designed and developed well, you don't need to rely as heavily on gore. You don't need to rely as heavily on just this like sledgehammer to the face kind of um, outlook. And so, one of the hallmarks of the carved Slit Mouthed Woman is she has these almost painful, piercing blue eyes. And it really, it's so strange to see that as a characteristic of a character that has all this pain and this violence. You would expect the eyes to be very like dark and sullen, and there is a lot of pain behind her eyes in the movie, but there's still this like bright, vibrant ice blue that you especially don't see amongst Asian individuals. And so that's how you know she's like a darker character, and there's a lot more difference in sinisterism amongst her, right? Like she's set apart. She doesn't look like everybody else, so she has that defining characteristic. You know, like the burnt face or the clown makeup or the hockey mask or the fact that she's a killer doll running around. That sort of thing. Otherwise, she looks like a normal woman walking around. That and with, you know, her face cut open. Um, but yeah, this was a really fun piece to stretch my artistic ability with this request because I got to do something that was both playful and macabre, which is always kind of a cool thing to be able to do. Anyways, we're wrapping this up, adding the blacks to the backgrounds and just kind of popping her out even more. Really hope you enjoyed this and watched all the way to the end. Please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And I will see you guys next time.